Welcome all to another episode of the C64 Roundup, your concise guide to the latest news and releases for your Commodore 64. Let's kick things off with a featured game of the month. Haplo and Andy Johns have teamed up again to produce the C64 conversion of the flick-screen platform adventure game Nixie and the Seeds of Doom. The backstory to the game is that the Glade has once again become corrupted by an unknown source, and it's up to Nixie to head on out on another quest to find the source and save her home once again. As you start off, there's very little guidance as to what you need to be doing, but as you delve deeper into the game world, the in-game hint system kicks in and you start to get a sense of your immediate focus. The first of which is to get to the top of the castle. Exploring the mysterious caverns and castle ruins is engaging from the outset, thanks to its highly attractive high-res graphics that is backed up with plenty of neat animation effects throughout and a suitably atmospheric SID soundtrack. The game world in its entirety is not overly large, which is fortunate as the game does require you to go back and forth across the same screens a few times in order to complete your objectives. If you need help navigating your way around, there is an in-game map that is not presented in the most clear fashion, but it is serviceable nevertheless. If there is anything that lets the game down a little, is that the game relies way too much on disappearing platforms to provide a challenge, and as a result can feel a little repetitive. Despite this, I enjoyed Nixie and the Seeds of Doom. It's a very well coded game that exudes a good amount of charm, and the drive to uncover the source of the corruption is strong. Nixie and the Seeds of Doom is both PAL and NTSC compatible, and is available as a digital download from itch.io. Time to check out some interesting news that has come across my desk in recent times. SID Project Labs is currently working on the HD64, an RF modulator replacement for the Commodore 64 that provides pixel-perfect 1080p HDMI output, complete with stereo audio. There is no upscaling of the VIC's analog signal. The HD64 instead sniffs the memory bus and emulates parts of the VIC to recreate the same frame internally, so the upscaling is done fully in the digital domain. The HD64 is currently in beta testing and requires some soldering skills. You can find out more on the SID Project Labs Discord server, link is in the description. And regular viewers of the C64 Roundup will remember that I showcased a Blue 64 Bluetooth adapter a few months ago, providing Bluetooth controller functionality within your C64. This versatile adapter has been updated with a slightly smaller form factor and the ability to perform firmware updates via micro SD card. The Blue 64 can be obtained in fully assembled form from the following retailers. The Icon 64 team has confirmed that they'll be looking to do another dual budget title release in early February 2025. Avalon is a top-down exploration game inspired by Mr. Micro's Treasure Island and features about 256 individual screens. While Ladybird is a gorgeous-looking steel screen puzzle game based on an old game called Fire Ant, containing 16 engaging levels. Tony Montezuma's Gold has received an update converting its dual-tone colour scheme to multicolours, and hasn't it made a big difference? The game itself is the same, but seeing the game displayed in multi-colours does lift the overall presentation of the game. If you already purchased a digital copy of Tony from itch.io, the download link you originally used should now be updated with the multicolour version. Sarah Jane Avery has started work on an Ultima-style RPG title, releasing a couple of work-in-progress videos. What has been displayed so far looks like a high-quality 8-bit title with a large game world and atmospheric music. The inclusion of beautifully crafted portraits like those used in Briley Witch games is a standout for me. This one has quite a while to go before it gets to release stage. I'm really pleased to bring you another instalment of Coder's Corner. This time around we have Robert Wilson from RWX Designs, who has kindly provided you budding coders out there with some tips on how to create some basic level character animations. So without any further delay, it's over to you, Robert.
Hi guys, this is just a small segment on animation. This has come about because I was contacted by a few people after I put out a progress update demo on my Cyberdroid game, which is being written for the 64. A few people have commented about the fan animation on the right, what you see on the right hand side of the screen here, and how I did it, and asking if this was actually sprites, these like 4 multiplex sprites or something. The answer is no, it's character animation. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm just going to give a quick high level overview of how I achieved this using character animation. Okay, so even though I just stated it's a character animation, it did in fact start out as a sprite animation, and this is SpritePad, a common tool used for designing animated sprites for the 64. The 4 frames of animation I just drew out simply, and once I was happy with them animating, as you can see here, I then set about translating them back into characters. The first frame is really just for my guide purposes. It's just drawing out a frame there to say 16 pixels high and 16 pixels wide is your limit, so don't go over that. This crude little diagram here below just explains the process of animating the characters once they are back into characters. Essentially, you have a 32 byte buffer, and you copy the first frame of characters into that 32 byte buffer. Then the second frame of characters goes into the first, the third into the second, the fourth into the third, and then that buffer just goes back into the final 4th frame. And that is a cyclical process and continues throughout the game. Once happy with the sprite frames that we drew, we then set about converting them back into characters. And we just simply then draw each of the sprites as a set of 2x2 character tiles, and then we just plot these, as we can see here, as the 4 frames of animation. We've got this little grey grid going across them. That's just to represent some sort of mechanical barbed wire effect just going over there. If you're curious as to what goes on behind the scenes, then in the 64 debugger here, I've just got a slowed down example of what is happening with that fan data. You can see these flashings of this pink purple color with these hex numbers. That is just the data of the 2x2 animations being copied, as I explained previously, and that is essentially all there is to it. If you want an example of more advanced character animation than what I've just covered, then check out a game like Salamander. This level, the fire level, uses in fact 4 character sets for its animation, 2 at the top for those flames and then 2 at the bottom. This is probably at the leading edge of character animation that was done. I can't think of a game that probably uses more than Salamander. It is quite advanced, way beyond what I've just covered. But again, it's the same principle. It's just using far more characters than I've just given the 16 characters in the 2x2 fan animation. But at the end of it, I hope you found something useful and you can take it forward into your own games should you decide to write one in the future. Thanks a lot.
Thanks so much for the overview, Robert. While Cyberjoid is looking quite good so far, there is no ETA as to when the game will be finished. But Robert tells me it's progressing nicely at the moment and that he'll be continuing work on the project in the new year. If you want to see an example of Robert's completed work, then be sure to take a look at Quasimodo's Christmas Caper, which he is currently updating to release 4.3 so that it is ready for this Christmas. Let's check out what other games of note have been released lately. Orbix is a pachinko / breakout style of game where your objective is to eliminate all the orange orbs by launching a ball from the top of the screen. You have a limited number of balls at your disposal to achieve your objective. At the bottom of the screen, you have a tray moving side to side that will save balls for you to reuse. If a ball misses the tray at the bottom, then the ball is lost. In addition to orange orbs, you'll find aids such as chain reaction bombs, switches, portals, bumpers and cannons, along with hazards such as lasers. To succeed in Orbix, you need to plan your shots ahead of time, resolve light puzzle elements, and rely on a whole bit of luck. The general premise behind Orbix is clever, and the game has the design to be a strong title, but its execution does let it down. The game is riddled with graphical glitches, and the velocity of your ball is all over the place, making the timing of your shots to line up with your tray much harder than it needs to be. I think Orbix is simply too much for the old C64 to handle, and the game plays at too slow of a speed for it to be an engaging experience. There is an optimised version for the C64 mode of the Commodore 128 that does improve things slightly, but the inconsistent velocity of the ball movement still dampens things. Orbix is available as a digital download and is both PAL and NTSC compatible. Forgotten Forest 2 sees you enter the dark forest during the hour of the wolf, and your task is to negotiate your way up a narrow path as hordes of demons and monsters pop out of nowhere looking for your blood. Blast them to smithereens as fast as you can. Now, why you'd go into a forest at this time of the night is never explained, nor do we know why you happen to be armed with a kick-ass shotgun, but this is 8-bit gaming and things don't need to make sense, it just needs to be fun. Forgotten Forest 2 is a very well presented horror theme game. The game graphics excel in portraying a dark and dangerous game environment, and Richard Baylor's superb in-game music succeeds in being appropriately spooky. This vertical scrolling 8-way directional shooter is really an on-rails style of game. Being constricted to a narrow part of the game world does dampen the gaming experience, especially since the hit detection is not as tight as it should be, with many shots going through monsters not registering, and what little movement you can perform doesn't really feel fluid. There is also an element of the same enemy types being unnecessarily repeated, which gives the impression that the length of the game is being artificially extended. If you persist through these limitations, then you're rewarded with some neat graphical effects throughout the game that give off the impression of a living landscape with its fog clouds, extra shady areas and rustling trees. Forgotten Forest 2 is available as a free digital download, and even though it's designed for powered machines, the game has been reported to run well on NTSC. Woodrus is a Tetris-style game with stacking bits of wood theme. No, really, those brown poo shapes you see on screen are really supposed to be pieces of wood. Anyway, you guys know how Tetris plays, but Woodrus here really struggles to replicate the essence of what makes the original so popular. It just feels very slow and clunky, and the overall brown presentation doesn't do it no favours. There is one additional element in Woodrus though, as when you start stacking the the wood pieces on top of each other, you need to give consideration as to how you pack them in, otherwise the pieces may roll off. Woodrus is available as a free digital download. The Last Z8 is a mash of mini-games tied together with a Ghostbusters themed presentation. Featuring Petsky graphics for all the backgrounds, The Last Z8 starts things off with the city map, and here you simply drive your car over to one of the ghosts on screen. This triggers a basic moon patrol style of game. Your aim here is to survive the level, all while shooting floating enemies on screen in order to increase the Zonk energy meter. The next level sees you shooting traps at ghosts to once again increase your Zonk energy meter. Your overall objective is to get your meter to 9,999. There's also an overhead driving level where you simply need to avoid the obstacles floating around. The game generally repeats itself over and over, but does break things up halfway through as you climb up the apartment building while avoiding obstacles. Overall, The Last Z8 draws you in with its attractive Ghostbuster presentation, and despite the general basic style of play on offer, there is enough here to see you persist with it until the end. The Last Z8 is available as a free digital download. Aquarius sees you take control of the space vessel Aquarius Kala as you explore the lakes around the world and beyond using your Commodore 1530 C2N dataset. You control the ship via the play button. Pressing it down will make the ship dive, while giving it a quick tap will shoot bubbles and a double tap will drop bombs. Your objective is to simply kill your quota of sea creatures. Collecting boots from the seafloor will recharge your ship's battery, while going through the algae will entangle your ship, disabling control of it. At the end of each stage, collecting the treasure chest will unlock a bonus game to get more points and fill your battery. Aquarius is an interesting tech demo, but the novelty of playing with your dataset does quickly wear off. Luckily, the digital version includes the ability to play with your spacebar instead. The game is available as a free digital download. Hera 47 is a hybrid graphical adventure where you control your character's movement with a joystick while typing in commands to instruct him to perform actions. The objective of the game is to score. To do this, you need to explore locations and find useful items that help you on your way to have fun action. I'm not sure exactly what this means, but if we are looking for fun action, then I must be in search for some Commodore 64 games, I guess. The graphical presentation on offer will remind many of the old DOS games such as Leisure Shoot Larry. The start contains a couple of paths leading to instant death, so it's into the bar we go. There's not much documentation on offer, and you pretty much have to guess what words are permissible within the game. Through a whole lot of trial and error, you start to make progress as you start to accumulate the items you need to achieve your overall objective. Hera 47 is not as fun or interesting as I thought it would be. It's quite short, and you sense that the design scope was always quite limited from the start. And that's a shame, because I think there would be a good size audience for a Leisure Suit Larry style of game on the Commodore 64. The game is optimised to run on PAL machines, but can run on NTSC modes as well. The game is available as a free digital download from itch.io. Soiled Iron is a classic sword fighting game that sees you play the role of a barbarian seeking revenge against the evil wizard responsible for killing your parents and usurping the throne they once held. Storming the castle that once was your home, you battle against a large number of enemies as you explore the corridors collecting treasure, health potions and sword upgrades. You have infinite lives, with each use of the ladder constituting a save point where you will respawn after dying. Drawing heavy inspiration from Barbarian, Soiled Iron's quest mode provides a somewhat addictive dungeon fighter exploration experience, with great looking fighter character sprites. There is a good level of progression with the overall game difficulty, as enemy you come against portray a subtle difference in their characteristics, adding a little bit of strategy to the approach you take during combat. The inclusion of infinite lives makes sure that many who play Sword Iron will do so for a good amount of time as you delve further down into the castle complex, hunting down the evil wizard and having a good time while doing it. And to add a little more playability, once you've completed the quest, you can try out the one-on-one combat mode. Sword Iron is available as a free digital download and is designed to run on both PAL and NTSC machines. And that is a wrap on another C64 roundup. I hope you've enjoyed the series over the past few years. Stay safe and enjoy the festive season. Until next time, bye for now.